Charles, are you dancing? It's the high court agreed with you and Nancy Pelosi on this.
Yeah, I was so nervous before the decision came down this morning, having spent the last year writing monomaniacally about this, that my Apple Watch actually asked me if I was okay because my heart rate was so high.
I knew it.
Yeah, I'm dancing. This is a huge deal for America. I have noted before that the student loan part of this is the detail. The core of it is separation of powers. And the question at hand was, are those separation of powers going to stay intact? And thank goodness today the court said, yes, they are.
They ruled 6-3 in an opinion written by the Chief Justice, John Roberts, who's been busy. He wrote yesterday's affirmative action opinion as well. Gorsuch wrote the case on the woman who designed the website. And they made clear, I mean, it was funny, I had the same experience as you, because first we saw the update saying on the one case, there was a pair of cases.
Right.
On the one case, they said there's no standing. These two plaintiffs can't bring this case. And it was like, oh, don't, because you see how Alito wrote it. It was like, oh, that's promising. And then it said no standing. It was like, oh God, because they could have found no standing in the second case too, but they didn't. They decided to decide that case on the merits and said he went too far. He doesn't have the power to do this. And maybe you can explain to the audience why. Why doesn't he have the power to just cancel student debt?
So you played at the beginning of this segment that Nancy Pelosi clip. And there's two things that I think are really interesting about that Nancy Pelosi clip, which, by the way, made it into the majority opinion verbatim. The first thing is how she says what she says. She is essentially what would be called, if she were male, mansplaining this to the audience. She thinks they don't know this obvious truth. And she sounds almost exasperated. No, of course the president can't do that. How quickly the tone changes when she wants something. Then there's what she said. She is a legislator. She has been a legislator for a long time. She was the Speaker of the House for many years for the Democrats. The US Constitution vests all legislative power, not some, not in certain circumstances, all legislative power in Congress, in the House and in the Senate. That includes everything to do with the budget, taxes, spending, borrowing, and so forth. Anything that the President of the United States does, and his branch is Article 2, not Article 1. That should tell you something about the order of importance.
That's right.
Anything that the Article 2 branch, the executive branch, the president does, has to be explicitly authorized by Congress. He does not have any free-floating powers when it comes to legislation or budgeting. And Congress has not given him any power. It is very simple. Biden knew this. Nancy Pelosi knew this. The Department of Education, which looked into it in 2020 and 2021, knew this. Everyone knew this. This was self-evident. Congress has never voted to allow student loans to be forgiven. This went to the court. The court got past the standing issue, which was, I think, the only circumstance under which this could have been sent back. And they rightfully struck it down, and it should have been 9-0. If you believe, as I do, that the core of the American Constitution is separation of powers, and that's in no way to disparage the rest of it, the Bill of Rights, the Reconstruction Amendments, and so on, but the core of it, what separates us from every other country, is separation of powers. This is a great day in American history.
Mm-hmm. We didn't want a king. That was one of the main reasons we fought a whole war and tried to establish our own independent union. We did not want an all-powerful executive at the top of our government. And somebody should have told that to Barack Obama and to Joe Biden, who now twice in about 12 months or so has been rebuked by this court for acting like a king.
Acting like a king and knowing he was acting like a king. I mean, at least former presidents have had the gall to hide it. I should say guile, not gall. Biden had gall in that he has said in other circumstances that this is illegal. If you go back to earlier Supreme Court cases on the eviction moratorium, on the vaccine mandate under OSHA, He knew what he was doing was illegal, and he did it anyway. And that was the case here. And, I would go one step further than you did, Megyn. It's not just that we didn't want a king, which, of course, we didn't. I say we now as an American citizen, despite my accent.
You're one of us.
We didn't want a king like the British had. But the British also did not want the sort of king that Joe Biden was trying to be here. The founding fathers and the colonists who preceded them were in love with the glorious revolution of 1688-89 in England, which pushed power away from the king, especially when it comes to budgeting, which this falls under, and put it into Parliament. We also, in Britain, I'm doing we for both now, we didn't want a king either, or at least we didn't want a dictator. So even the system that the American founders rejected would have said, no, the king does not have the authority to take this sort of action on his own.
He didn't go through Congress on any of the two prior items you mentioned or this item because he couldn't get it passed. He knew it. And so he just did an end around the Constitution. And in some ways, I see today's decision on the free speech case, with this web designer who didn't want to be forced to have compelled speech in favor of gay marriage as the same. You've got a group of state legislators out in Colorado who in advancing their woke, quote, inclusive, equity-based agenda said to all of the businesses in their state, you must silence your own private beliefs about same-sex marriage, and you must actually, if asked to, support it, whether it's through baking a cake or taking photographs at a wedding or doing a wedding website for a same-sex couple. You have no choice, entirely forgetting the First Amendment. And here again, that overreach was struck down by a same sober Supreme Court, reminding them there is a Constitution. There's Article 1, there's Article 2, and then on this case, there's the Bill of Rights. And then in number 1 is freedom of speech.
Yes, and this was a freedom of speech case, as you say. It's being cast in the press this morning as a religious liberty case or a case about LGBT rights. It's really much broader than that. This is about compelled speech. It is simply not true, as I've seen some claim, that this has allowed private businesses to say, we will not serve a certain class of people. That's not true. This case involved a woman who said that she would quite happily serve anyone, gay, straight, Muslim, Christian, atheist, or what you will, but that she did not want to use her creative talents to express certain viewpoints and certain ideas. And I think everyone should support that. This is not a left or right thing, or it shouldn't be. It's not a gay or straight thing, or it shouldn't be. It's not an atheist or Christian thing. It shouldn't be. That's fundamental within the American order. And it's telling, isn't it, that the criticisms of the cases that have come down over the last 2 or 3 days have not focused on the Constitution or the law, but the results. So now, today, we're told the Supreme Court took $10,000 away from people. Not the Supreme Court upheld Article 1.
Wait, let me just give an example of that, and then I'll let you finish your point. Chris Hayes of MSNBC. God damn it, this truly, truly sucks. Lots of very bad things this 6-3 majority has done, but them deciding you are now $10,000 poorer than you were yesterday is really a hell of a thing. Keep going.
Well, look, that is a major network host in the United States who seems only to care about outcomes, who doesn't mention the law, who doesn't mention the controversy in the case, and who also pretends that anyone who was involved in this had more or less money at any given point, when of course they didn't. Anyone who owes $10,000 owed it because they borrowed it and spent it and benefited from it. And Joe Biden never had the authority to change that, as we found out today. But I was going to say that that's the response you get on this one, not discussion of Article 1 or the statute in question. Yesterday, with affirmative action, the responses have all been, look at this thing that might now happen that I don't like, rather than the meaning of the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause. This morning, with the 303 case, well, what will happen to this person or that person? Not what does the First Amendment say? One of the great things about having a constitution as we do, and it doesn't always yield outcomes that I like, is that you know where you stand. The state of Colorado should have known that the First Amendment is in place and it applies to it. And if they want to change that, then they're going to have to repeal it. They can't just do whatever public policy they wanted to achieve Anyway, the same is true with Joe Biden. If the Democratic Party wants to forgive student loans, by which I mean transfer the liability for them to the people who didn't borrow them, then they can do that through Congress. I think it is a terrible, divisive idea, and that it would be politically disastrous and deserve to be. But if they want to do it, they can. They can introduce the bill into Congress tomorrow. They can convince enough people in there to pass it. Joe Biden can sign it and then implement it. Until that has happened, he can't do it.
Now that summer's here, it's time to get outside and enjoy your backyard. But does your backyard need a makeover? Start with the perfect centerpiece, a Michael Phelps swim spa by Master Spas. A Michael Phelps swim spa can transform your backyard into an oasis. The swim spa is an alternative to a pool with the therapy of a hot tub. Michael Phelps swim spas have a water current so you can swim, do aquatic exercises, and have fun with the kids. And because it is heated, you can choose your perfect water temperature and use it all year long in any climate. Michael Phelps swim spas by Master Spas come in a variety of sizes to complement almost any yard, even if it's a small backyard. And this is not a long, intimidating project. In fact, delivery and installation can take less than a day once your space is ready. Michael Phelps swim spas are 100% made in the USA by Master Spas, the world's largest swim spa manufacturer. You are going to love your Michael Phelps swim spa by Master Spas. Go to masterspas.com, put in the promo code MK to save $1,000 on a Michael Phelps swim spa or $500 on a Master Spas hot tub. That's masterspas.com, promo code MK. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.